What's up, everybody? Kieran Hanlon here, Associate Professor at State University of New York, Fredonia. And I just thought it might be helpful, mainly actually for my students, is what sort of caused me to think about doing this. I thought it'd be helpful to actually record my daily routine, really from the very start of things each day. This is something I really try to do before any day of playing. It includes physical warm-ups, meaning sort of conditioning type exercises, as well as harmony-based stuff. So I'm just going to run through the whole thing, sort of narrate a little bit as I go, and hopefully watching it as a unit will be in some way helpful to somebody. So first thing I do is I get the bow tightened up, and then I go ahead and clean it out, and I will not touch the base unless I do this process. I'd outline this process in a different video. Professor Hanlon's Bass Tips, Rosining the Bow. I don't remember which episode number it is, but if you just look for that. So it's about 10 times through with the comb, and then I take my washcloth here and get the dust off, all right? So the next thing I do is, as I tune up the, got to do the copper, all right? So that's the cleaning of the strings using the copper scrubber. Again, that comes up on the other video as well. And yeah, this is just one of those, things that without going through that cleaning process, I just don't move on. I don't feel comfortable. So keeping consistency with the health of the strings and the bass. So next thing I do is tune up the bass. I got my tuner back here. I have another video on tuning, but just as an aside, I'm using a Korg clip-on tuner these days. It's absolutely fantastic, and it is one of the things that if even in a loud space, the Korg clip-on tuner will really hear the strings of the bass in a way that is really accurate. And so I just try to tune them one at a time. Of course, there's a harmonics method for quicker situations, different situations, whatever. But that's it. So once I'm tuned up, then I go through what I call my double stop warm up. I sort of made this up. I have it written out. If you're interested, let me know. But I'm just going to go ahead and play through it. This is great for bow control. It's great for intonation. Controlling the bow so that both strings operate evenly with each other. Every warm is going to include some playing the bass, little bits of improvisation here and there. My teacher Diane, again, I used to say something along the lines of an exercise like this can really just help you say to your bass, "Hello, how are you today?" Also heard from Alex Hanna say in a master class once that starts the day by essentially asking the bass, "What do you need from me today?" And this double stop thing helps me understand the bass on a day-to-day, because we know they change every day, right, with the weather or whatever. So Now, if you have a C extension, the warm-up can be a little bit longer. This is not in the written out version, but I just would add this part if you do have an extension. That's the thing, it can really help you just center up your intonation, get the feel for the bass each day. It also helps, I think, to kind of even out the rosin on the bow, and also just get through all these kind of nasty sounding double stops, some of the more intense intervals like this one, minor ninth between the low C string and the C sharp on the A string. Just gets the wood of the bass moving, vibrating, woken up, so to speak. Speaking of getting the wood moving, another thing I learned from Mike Griffin, who made this bass, and is a great player, plays in Rochester Philharmonic as assistant principal, is to take the top two strings and the bottom two strings and stretch them sort of one at a time. So you're doing top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, both away from the center line of the bass. And the function of that is, probably can't see it in the video, but you could, the top of the bass is literally doing this, so you're kind of getting everything moving and woken up. And also the other thing in terms of tuning is it just pulls any of the slack out of the strings. And then you'll see that I'm going to go ahead and tune one more time having done that. Not surprisingly, a lot of times a string will be flat after doing that particular thing. So. But not today. Oh, okay, C is flat. There's perfect. All right, cool. This is usually the point at which I will throw a little rosin on. Try not to do it until this point, so that having cleaned the bow hair, you can get any of the older stuff out. Okay. So I'll just give it a quick 2 swipes here, 1 down, 1 up. And then we'll get into the start of the physical exercises. So, as I mentioned, I like to do a combination of, for myself and for my students, I like to teach a combination of physical and harmonic exercises for warm-ups. This is great. This Dennis Whitaker stuff in the incredibly useful exercise is really, really helpful. So, so I use 2 in my daily warm-up. One is the Max's Magic from Max Dimoff, principal out in Cleveland Orchestra. And I'll show it to you as written first, and then I do 2 different versions of it in addition to that I kind of made up on my own. So here it is as written. It's really great for conditioning, finger independence, left hand. think is really, really helpful for conditioning. It is tiring, right? You'll get the burn up in here, as Dennis talks about, I think, in the sort of the instructions. And so one of the ways I combat that is I move on, before I get into the other versions of that, I go ahead and do a harmony exercise. So these days I've been doing a version of the Carl Flesch scale system for violin. I kind of just took the violin book and made it my own a little bit. And so in the violin book, it's like one string at a time to start, and I interpret that on the bass as one octave at a time. And I just play one beat or one bow per beat, I should say. So I'm going to show you the key of F today. I try to do a different key each day, just in the sequence that come up in the violin book, sort of descending thirds, alternating major, and the relative minor. And so here's the first octave. Approach now is mezzo forte, nice solid sound, nothing crazy dynamically one way or the other. Next thing I do is Max's Magic again, but I do it spiccato, starting down bow. I like for my students and for myself to be practicing legato and spiccato every day as part of your warm-up routine, whatever it may be. So do Max's Magic again, but I just do it starting down bow spiccato. Let the stroke adjust so that the sound is the same across all four strings. A little lower and a little bit longer, higher register. Boy, it's hard to talk and do that at the same time. Cool. So then I just move on to the second octave in the key of F. Same exercises. So. That to additionally help coordination, I'll do Max's Magic a third time. Again, really great conditioning over here. This time though, I'll start at up bow, still spiccato, but I'll start at up bow, which adds a pretty interesting coordination component, as I mentioned. So then I'll move on into the third octave of the flesh system. So then as some additional conditioning, I go into just one pass through Gary Carr Bumblebees, which is, you know, it's a bit of a wild ride, but it's like totally worth it. I feel since I've been doing this the last couple of years, this kind of routine, it's just really just made everything feel better. So here we go. Great conditioning on the left side. I would just caution you on that one. I know for me, the thing I have to focus on the most over time is intonation. It's very easy to get sort of overly focused on the physicality of it and just kind of lose track of your steps a little bit. So that's just a quick aside on that. All right, so now the Carl Flesh in 3 octaves. there it is. So 20 minutes and 20 seconds on the video so far. So it's approximately a 20-minute warm-up. I really try to do that every day as a minimum for maintenance. Perfect day I do that, and then I play a couple movements of Bach, unless I'm preparing for something specific, at which point I would, at this point, move on to whatever that repertoire might be. So anyway, just wanted to run this through, show you. I would say that in a normal morning, I might stop and check some of the trickier arpeggios a little bit more. There's a few spots I was a little bit uncomfortable moving through them. Push through them for the nature of the video, but I would say that, you know, it's always good to stop, of course, and tighten up anything that doesn't feel great. So anyway, any questions, send me an email, Hanlon, Hanlon, @fredonia.edu. Take care.